Hi everyone, my name is Andy Francis with QLab Marketing. Today we're going to take a look at how to operate the Q-FOG tester using the new Gen 4 dual full color touchscreen displays. We're going to work mostly with this CRH model. We'll go through all the features, options, programming, things like that. To start operation of the tester, we'll just touch one of the screens here. Touch anywhere on either screen and both screens will light up. The Gen 4 main controller system for Q-FOG testers has two screens. The upper screen we call the status screen. This is going to have all the current information about your test, actual and set point values, as well as test timers. The lower screen we call the menu screen. The menu screen is where you'll do all of your interaction with the tester. It's where you'll change your settings, manage your test timers, and program in test cycles. We'll look at both of these. We'll start with the status screen. Across the top, the status screen tells you what's currently happening. In this case, the green text indicates that we are running, also the little running person here. So we're running cycle C in this case, and the cycle is called RH test. Seems like a good thing to run in a CRH. In the far left box here, we have temperature. On the far left, we have the actual and set point values. You can see that it's a little higher currently than the set point. It's cooling. And right next to that, the little status box indicates that it's cooling. Next to that, we have relative humidity. Here we're a little bit short of the set point, so the tester is currently humidifying to bring that up. Now these will change over time. This, of course, can also say heating. This can say drying. Also, if they've reached their set point, there will be a little green check mark that says set point achieved. During a ramp, which is only possible during an RH step and a CRH, this box indicates the type of ramp, linear, auto, or less than, and how far into the ramp we are. In this case, we're 37 minutes into a 50-minute ramp. Across the bottom, we have our test timers, elapsed time and set point time. The far left is the step, the center is the overall test, and at the far right here is the total time that the tester has been running since it started. So in this case, we're 37 minutes into a 1-hour step, and we're 808 hours and change into a 1,000-hour step. The only interaction that you'll have with the status screen is one of these two buttons here at the lower right. This button is the chamber light, which is now present in all models, SSP, CCT, and CRH. And the run stop button. When you're running, this is a stop sign. And when you've stopped the test, now you can see the status changes to stopped, and the button is now run. You can also see that the test indicator, this LED light, has gone from green, which it was when it was running, to white. The white means that it's in standby. It means there are no active problems, no notifications or errors, but you're not running. And the little stop sign up here tells you that your test is stopped. If I want to run again, all I have to do is hit the run button, our LED indicator back to green, and we're running once more. That's really all there is to the status screen. We'll check back later in a little bit and see if this has hit its set points. But in the meantime, let's go down to the menu screen. So we're going to step through all of the different menus so you get a feel for what operations are possible. It's a pretty compact menu, should be pretty straightforward to use. We'll start at the top here with Manage Test Timers. Here we can set a couple of things. One, we can tell the tester what it should do when the test finishes. Right now it does nothing, which is not typical. Frequently you're going to want it to both stop and give an alarm. So we can change it to that. I could also choose just stop or just alarm or give a message or any of those options. I can also change the elapsed time. So if I want to say that we're 908 hours in instead of 808, and I can also change the total duration that I want to run for. Right now it's programmed to 1,000 hours. I could click here. I could say I only want this to run 950 hours, and so on. If I want to leave, I can just X out. Okay. In this case, I don't want to cancel. And if I want to save my changes, I just hit the little save icon, and my changes have been saved. Let's take a trip back to the status screen real quick. You can see that the tester has now reached its actual value for temperature, and is close enough. It's within the tolerance for relative humidity. So it's now telling me that the temperature set point's been achieved, the relative humidity set point has been achieved, and the ramp has been completed. So again, these statuses update over the course of the test. Going back down to the menu screen, the next thing we can do is manage cycles. This is where all the programming for the tester is done. If you're familiar with older series Q-FOGs, you'll recognize the test timers are previously in the P1 menu. We don't have the P menus anymore, they're replaced by this. The old P2 and P3 menus are replaced by manage cycles. So you can see here we can program up to 10 cycles in the Q-FOG tester. Right now we're running cycle C. You'll note that when you first go into the manage cycles, it knows which cycle you're running and immediately highlights the step that you're in and shows you your status. So we're running step 3, the RH, as we saw before. I can look through on the top here, I can look at the different cycles. Most of them haven't been programmed in here, but you can program those in if you would like. I can also choose to run start a new cycle. In this case, all of the cycles are taken up, so I can't. So I would have to go through and delete a cycle if I wanted to do that first. That's easy enough. Got an empty cycle here. I can press the delete icon. It says, are you sure you want to delete the cycle? Yes. So now I've got one free, and if I want, I can create a new cycle J. Pretty straightforward. I won't be able to delete this cycle because it's my active cycle. If I try to do this, the tester will remind me of this. Okay, fair enough. If I don't want somebody to edit a cycle or delete a cycle, if I'm a lab manager and I want to maintain more control over my tester, I can choose to lock by clicking this icon. I enter a password, whatever I want, say OK, and now the delete feature is locked, and the edit feature is also locked. Okay. I can enter the same code to unlock, and now those features are active again. For QLab and repair personnel, there is an override code, which will be in a confidential service instructions. Here I see the different steps that are in this particular cycle. It starts with a shower, has RH steps, and then at the end goes back to step 1. Pretty short cycle. I can advance through this if I like using the arrow keys. To program, I'll click the little pencil edit button here. My options are I can edit the step that I have selected, I can delete the step, or I can insert a step before or after. Now these are really nice features to have relative to the Gen 3 system, because previously if you wanted to insert a step, you had to basically overwrite all the steps that came after it. Took a whole bunch of time. Now if you want to insert a step before or after, it's very easy to do that without affecting the other steps. So in this case, I'll choose to, let's edit a step. You know what, let's add a step before. So what kind of step? These are the functions that are available in the CRH. So maybe I want to do an RH step. Okay. I want it to take 1 hour and 0 minutes. Chamber air temperature, I want to run, let's say I want to run 50 C. And I want to run at 70% relative humidity. I want this to be a linear ramp from the previous step. And I want that to take 30 minutes. Nope, that's the hours, my mistake. 0 hours and 30 minutes. Okay, easy enough. Save that, and we're good. So you can see that it's inserted an RH step before. It's very easy to see what all is going on in your program just from this screen. You can see all the steps at a glance, how the chamber air temperature and the relative humidity is changing, and when ramps are present, what type of ramp they are and how long they last. So really nice, easy way to see all the programming steps in your CRH. Now in this case, this isn't my test. I don't want to save this, so I'm going to X out without saving my changes, but typically you would want to save them. So that's programming. Calibration. There are 3 types of calibration in the CRH. The lower 2 will not be present in the SSP and CCT models. The first is calibrating temperature sensors. This was formerly P4 in the previous models, the Gen 3 and Gen 2. So Using the procedures that are detailed in the technical manual, I can calibrate the chamber temperature sensor, the wet bulb sensor, and the dry bulb sensor in sequence. For each of them, I'll have a reference device. This is going to be a calibrated thermometer in an insulated container. I'll read a value from my reference device. Let's say that it's 50.7. It may differ a little bit from your chamber sensor. That's why we do calibration. And once you've typed that value in, you'll press the button and it will calibrate. Just like that. And then I would repeat the process for the wet bulb temperature and the dry bulb temperature. In the case of the SSP and CCT models, only the chamber air temperature will be present. The CRH model has shower. This calibrate menu allows you to set the shower flow alarm rate limit. This is the amount of shower flow below which the tester will give you an error because it thinks that the shower nozzles are not working or they are clogged. So you would click into here. First of all, you look inside, verify that the shower is okay, and then you press the calibrate button so that the tester knows, okay, this is what a normal shower flow rate is. And this is all detailed in your tech manual, very easy to do. You'll just press the single calibrate button. And finally is the damper adjustment. So this adjusts the preconditioner and air control module dampers. We're not going to do this today. This is a QLab only operation. There is a service instruction for that. There's actually a password required, which I am not going to type in here. This is also in the confidential service instruction for QLab and repair personnel. That's everything in the calibrate menu. I'll click here to go back home. Next up, we have the settings. These are all exactly the same as they are in the QUV and QSUN if you've used those Gen 4 systems previously. We'll just go through them anyway in case you haven't seen that video. Volume. We can independently vary both the alarm volume as well as the touch volume that it makes every time I do a key press. If I want, I can save these changes. I think I'll just X out of this. That's very simple. Under display options, we can independently vary the brightness of the status screen and the menu screen. This could be handy in a case where you have to replace one of the screens, in which case your replacement screen might be a little bit brighter than your older screen. So if you want them to look the same, you might want to back off the brightness of one of yours a little bit, or perhaps you just prefer them to be a little bit dimmer than lighter. Either way, we'll keep these both at 100, nice and bright. The screens do automatically go to sleep after a period of time. QLab recommends that you set that sleep time at 15 minutes, but you may want to do a different time. Your options range anywhere from 1 minute up to 8 hours. But for now, we'll leave this at 15 minutes. Language, date and time. For the Gen 4 Q-FOG release, we have now 17 languages. We have the 8 that were announced with the launch of the Gen 4 QUV and QSUN. We've also added 9 additional languages, including the last one hanging out here on the last page, which is Thai, I believe. It's simple to select your language. Let's try Russian just for fun. You can see that the on-screen text is going to change, and when I say OK, then all of the menu buttons also change. Testers are simple enough to operate that I probably could do the rest of this in Russian. However, I am not going to. So let's go ahead and go back to English. Easy to change the date and time. The day will come up with our normal keypad. The month will allow the standard 12 selections. And the year, of course, is going to look the same. Again, going to be the keypad. The testers do operate on 24-hour time. That's something to keep in mind. You can see it's the afternoon here. They do not automatically update for daylight savings time. It's up to you if you want to do that. Ethernet settings are the same as they were in Gen 3, just a little easier to see on screen, but these are all the exact same fields that you would have programmed in previously in the P menu. We also have what we call the machine configuration. I'll pull this up. What machine configuration is a subset of expert parameters that we want to make available to all users. Okay, so power users of our testers know that there are a whole bunch of what we call expert parameters that allow you to make fine adjustments to our testers. but most users, we typically don't want them using expert parameters. However, there are some that it makes sense to let people edit without giving them the password to edit all of them. We call that machine configuration, and you can see it's a pretty small subset of all the expert parameters. This has only 15, 20, 24 or so out of the 150 or whatever it is for Q-FOG. Okay? So some things that you may need to fine tune on a regular basis, you'll find in machine configuration. We'll go back to the home screen. A couple more things here. We've got our diagnostics. This is the same as the diagnostics on Gen 3, basically, where you press the question mark. It pulls up some interesting info about how your tester is operating, serial number, bubble tower temperature, things like that, current status. So all the things that you're used to seeing in diagnostics in Gen 3 are also present in Gen 4. And finally, contact QLab or QR code, or you can visit us at q-lab.com/support. Only two more things that we need to look at here on the menu screen. One is the notification center. This is going to come up automatically if you have a notification, if you have some sort of error, whether that error stops the test or is just kind of a warning notification. You can toggle between notifications that are active and notifications that have been cleared. So right now, if I go to active, I have no active notifications. That's a good thing. That's where you would like to be. And that's how I have my little green indicator light here. So that's always going to be the case there. If this is flashing yellow or flashing red or flashing blue, you're going to have something here in the active notifications box. Here in the cleared, you can see the kind of history. It'll save up to your last 50 notifications by default. And you can see that the color of the triangle here indicates the type of error. A yellow error is a non-stopping notification. It's telling you that your shower flow is too high, but it hasn't stopped the test. In all cases, if you want further information, you can click the little info and it will tell you what time this happened, what cycle and step was running, so you can try to diagnose what the error was. If I scroll down to the next page, the red triangle indicates that there was a stopping error. The blue triangle indicates that there was an error that, or not an error, but rather a notification that you, in this case, completed a software install, or if you finished running a test. The final thing that I'll show on this menu screen is secret. It is expert parameters. You access them by pressing and holding up in the upper left corner of the menu screen. There's a secret code, which is going to be in the confidential service instructions. Okay, since I think people are watching here that are qualified, we'll give you the code. And this takes you into the main expert parameters menu. Okay. Same as it was in Gen 3, easier to scroll through. And if you would like to look at a particular type or group of expert parameters, you can do that. By default, it shows all of them. But if I'm only interested in ones that affect relative humidity step control, for instance, I can choose that. Okay. And I'll X out of that. One additional thing that I'll mention, let me go back into the secret menu. The expert parameters are actually a subset of what's called the Jump To feature. You can see it says Jump To screen number. Every screen in the Gen 4 system has a 3-digit number that's associated with it. This is meant to be useful for repair personnel to help customers on the phone. They can say, for instance, okay, go to screen 123, and you'll be at the same spot as me, and then look for a certain button. So you can go directly to any screen that the tester offers. One of them just happens to be the expert parameter screen that we looked at. Okay. This is also used to found the reset operations, if you're familiar with those, that reset cal factors and other tester personality history. Okay. So we can close that. The last thing that we want to show is some differences in the LED light. So one thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to edit my test timer. I'm going to make the tester think that it's very close to being done. Okay, so it's just 1 minute away from finishing the test. Okay, and then we'll wait just 1 minute. It should reach the end of the test, and we'll see that notification. This test is now completed. It's reached its 809-hour, 5-minute programming time. You can see it's now flashing blue to tell me that it's finished. I have the checkered flag up here on the status screen, and I've got an active notifications down here on the menu screen. So the first thing I want to do is silence this. Okay. And once I've acknowledged it, if I want to continue on, I'll just go ahead and say, I'll clear that out. Now I have no more active notifications. I'm good to go. If I want to start my test again, all I have to do is press run, and it will get going once more. So the tester is back on now, running a test again. It's a little confused about the linear ramp. I've kind of tricked around with the programming. But one thing I can do, if I open the lid, this will give me an error. This is, of course, a stopping error. When you have a stopping error, the LED flashes red. You get your red triangle. You have red text saying test suspended, and it says see notification on another display. So I can do that, and it's telling me, my lid is open. Very good. So I can go ahead and close that back up. Okay. That is one notification that does automatically clear. The other ones you have to clear manually. Now I've got no more active notifications, and my test is once again running normally. The last kind of notification that we can get in Gen 4 is the yellow LED indicator light. This means that there's a notification, but it's not a notification that has stopped the test. So this is something like calibrating your irradiance sensors in a QSUN, for instance. In this case, I shut off the tester, and the notification it has, it's telling me that the power was disrupted at some point in time, which is true. I disrupted it. So what we see is it's running. The test is operating normally. You still have your running person, although the running person is alternating with the little yellow indicator triangle saying, you should probably take a look at the notifications. So here I see that the power is disrupted. I acknowledge that. I say, yes, it was. And now I have no more active notifications, and I'm back to running normally. Now, the final status that we can have is when we do data transfer. So we have USB capability on the Gen 4 system. There's a port in the rear. We can plug in a USB. Two options will come up on the screen. The top one is for software installation. So this button's text will change depending on the version of software that is installed versus the version that you have on your USB. In this case, the most current software is both on the tester and on my USB, so it's asking me if I would just want to reinstall the same software. Usually when you're doing this, it's going to say install newer software, right? Because you're upgrading to a newer version. That's one option. And the second option is to export diagnostics. This is virtual strip chart data, as well as some other tester personality things, expert parameters and such, that can be used either to view virtual strip chart data on Q-Portal or used by our repair team to diagnose a problem. So I can click here, I can go ahead and export diagnostics. It tells me that it's going to take a few minutes. I say, okay, that's fine. And the files are transferring, and that's going to be indicated by this flashing magenta light. This will also be the case if you're installing software. Okay. Now we don't need to do this entire export, so I'm going to just go ahead and pull the USB ahead of time. Normally this would take a few minutes, and then you would have your virtual strip chart data on your USB.